All right, welcome into Quick Slant from the Daytona Beach News Journal. This is week 8, if you can believe that, of the Florida high school football season. We got another good week of games here, and of course, we're here to break it all down. We got Chris Boyle with us. We've got Zach Allen with us. I'm Chris Vanell. We do this every single week, so make sure you're checking us out online and in print at the Daytona Beach News Journal. Let's dive into our first game, and we've got 4 of these all local games this week. We've got Seabreeze at Daytona, Flagler Palm Coast at DeLand, Spruce Creek at University, and New Smyrna Beach at Pine Ridge. The added element to all of those is they're all district games as well. So you've got added importance there, not just local bragging rights against those guys down the street. Let's start with Seabreeze at Daytona. And Chris, I'll start with you here. What are you looking for out of Seabreeze?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a last hurrah for Seabreeze as far as the playoff race is concerned. They've already taken 2 losses in the district, a overtime heartbreaker against New Smyrna Beach, and then the loss to Rockledge before that. But I still think this team has been one of the more improved teams in the area, certainly defensively. I mean, they're a team that works really hard. They're a team that doesn't give up a ton of yards or a ton of points. They've been, very impressive in that aspect throughout the year. Last week, they were able to get the win pretty comfortably over Atlantic. Logan Smith had a couple of touchdowns in that game. Also had 4 tackles in the game as well. So, I think for Seabreeze, just trying to stay the course and keep on this progression, right? Like, I think they've been consistently one of those teams that feels like each week has gotten a little bit better. And, they can score in a variety of ways. They can run it for touchdowns. They can score defensively. They can score on special teams. So they're going to put pressure on you in all 3 phases. And I think that's going to be important. I think, for Daytona, protecting the football, I think is going to be a big key for them. They've gotten into trouble sometimes with turnovers over the years, and Seabreeze will hurt you for it.
Yeah, and Seabreeze, like you mentioned, they kind of got rolling a little bit on offense last week, got rolling on the ground with 230 rushing yards. So definitely generating some momentum there. This game also, by the way, before we go any farther, I got to mention this. This game ruled last year. This went to overtime. Daytona won 13-10 in like a good old slugfest.
Sounds like the Big Ten West.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
And I'm all about that. I was raised in Ohio, so I love that. Zach, what are you looking for from the Daytona side of things here?
I think just building momentum off that Pine Ridge win. They'd lost 3 in a row, and they went into Pine Ridge and were up 13-0 at halftime before Pine Ridge kind of came back a little. They ended up winning 28-21. I think the defense needs to, especially against a team like Seabreeze, not allow these extended drives. They had that happen a few times against Pine Ridge, where DeAndre Weston would just run the ball, and it would be a couple plays first down, then they end up scoring in the second half, and then just not turning the ball over. We all know Seabreeze can score defensively. They've done it the past 3 games, and they've done it in 4 games this season, and especially with the wing T offense, they didn't really have to get out of it against Pine Ridge. They were able to stay ahead of schedule, but I could see it becoming problematic if the first and second down, the run plays are stuffed, and then Jeremiah Hancock is forced to step back in and pass the ball. But I mean, Daytona's a team that they started the season really well, with a win 40-13 versus Crescent City, and then beating Vieira. And so I think they're capable of definitely winning this game. And I think it's going to be a similar game to last season, where it's like 10-7, 13-10, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I love it. And I think all 3 of us in our picks, not to reveal too much, I think we all picked Seabreeze, but we all picked very closely, and I could absolutely see this one going the other way. Daytona only passed the ball 3 times last week. That's 3 times, which is kind of a reversal from earlier in the season when they were throwing it around the yard a little bit more. But they rushed for 298 yards, including 155 by Aiden Baldwin, the freshman. So they're getting some offense going there, too, within the last game or so.
Tell you what, if Daytona wins this game, they got New Smyrna next week, and that could genuinely be like a wild card style of game. New Smyrna's got one of the playoff spots in that region right now. So If Daytona can get the job done, they have a big road test next week, and they could be playing again for their postseason future as well.
We're basically to the point where we're having postseason games already. Over the next couple of weeks, there will be elimination games along with district championship games. So yeah, it's an exciting time of year. Flagler Palm Coast at DeLand. Speaking of offense, we'll start with the DeLand side of things. Chris, I'll turn to you here.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about their run game because we've done that a lot.
Yes,
they have a realistic chance. We haven't talked about this enough, though. They have a realistic chance of going 10-0. Like, I look at that schedule the rest of the way. Now that they've beaten Mainland, they're going to come back November the 6th with a 14-0 first quarter lead against Spruce Creek. And you look at what they've got ahead of them from here on out. They've got Flagler, University, and Lake Gibson between the next 3 weeks. They're going to be favored in all 3 of those games, and substantially so, I think, in the next couple. If they can go out there and kind of keep momentum going when they get back out there with Spruce Creek, I don't want to overlook Flagler.
Sure.
It's a good football team. They beat University a couple weeks ago, and they gave it a pretty good run against Fletcher last week, a team I thought Fletcher was a pretty solid team out of the Jacksonville area. But I do think 10-0 is very much on the table for DeLand, and they could be one of the highest ranked teams in the state going into the playoffs and potentially have a lot of home dates at Spec Martin Stadium when we get to November.
Yeah, and just last week, I don't know how much stock you place in the FHSA rankings, but last week was DeLand's best win of the season, beating Mainland, who at the time ranked even higher than they are now, which is now they're at 62. So I believe they were up at 39 last week before losing to DeLand. Mainland on bye this week. It goes. It's worth mentioning too. Zach, Flagler's got some momentum after playing well last week, not being able to pull out the W, but then getting the win the week before and kind of ending that skid. What are you seeing from Flagler here?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, but just limiting turnovers when they came out of the bye week and smoked University 38-7, they didn't have any interceptions. And then last week in their close loss to Fletcher, they had 2. And I mean, DeLand's a team where you just have 1 interception and it's off to the races. Even in the 4 minutes that they played Spruce Creek, when DeLand played Spruce Creek, I should specify it. You could see that it was already 14-0. Marcellus Carey already had a pick 6. But I think Flagler Palm Coast can be a capable team. They have the tools to put it together. They were injured really early in the season, which was probably part of the reason they had a slow start. But they're first in their district right now, because their game against University was the only district game so far. So I mean, if they pull off an upset against DeLand this week or against Spruce Creek, they might be able to find a playoff spot here. Even though the start of the season was definitely not what they were looking for.
And that offense is interesting too. They threw the ball 11 times last week, only with 3 completions for 27 yards. But man, Ladarius Simmons from the quarterback position got rolling on the ground. He carried the ball 24 times for 110 yards. So there's some offensive versatility there.
And he can definitely pass the ball when he wants to. I mean, against University, he completed 10 of 14 passes for 135 yards. So he's definitely a dynamic player when he gets it all going.
Zach, let's stick with you here. New Smyrna Beach at Pine Ridge. What are you looking for in this one?
Pine Ridge, last week was their home opener, 7 games into the season. They started the game with 6 straight road games. And talking to Alex Russell after the game, he, even though it was a loss, he was just happy to play at home. He said there was kind of an adjustment period. And Pine Ridge is they're 2-5, but when they get going, they can run the clock out, play some grimy, run heavy football, similar to what New Smyrna Beach kind of had trouble with against Seabreeze. I'm not saying Pine Ridge is on Seabreeze's level, but they play kind of a similar version of that. But I mean, I'd like to see Pine Ridge kind of establish something in front of a home crowd, especially against an opponent like New Smyrna Beach. And then I think from the New Smyrna Beach standpoint, just getting the offense back rolling. Last week, Cole Angler, their quarterback, finished 6 for 17, and I don't know if he reached 40 or 50 yards, which was a stark contrast to what he's done this season. And I don't think that's typical of what the Barracudas have shown so far.
Yeah, and it's kind of another, like you mentioned, another interesting game on the ground for each team. Pine Ridge is not afraid to run the quarterback either. 23 carries, 120 yards, and 3 touchdowns last week for DeAndre Weston against Daytona.
He is their offense, and he's willing to take a hit. There was one touchdown that it was one of the loudest hits I've ever heard. Just helmets cracking. So he's a player to watch.
And New Smyrna, even though they only scored 6 points last week, it wasn't their best offensive day, obviously. But Todd Cutler still turning in more than 100 yards on the ground. Last year, he broke out against Pine Ridge. That was his first 100-yard day of his career, I believe. So, another couple players to watch there. Let's go to the last all-local game we've got on the slate here, Spruce Creek at University. And Chris, I'll tee you up for this one.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen Spruce Creek play football. It feels like they've only played 4 minutes since September the 19th. I think that's what it is. Like, it's been a very stop-start period of time for them. Obviously, what we kind of forget about them. They're 5-0 still. I mean, it doesn't feel like we should forget that, but you think about the DeLand game. It obviously kind of leaves you longing as to what that outcome is going to be at the end of the season. But this is still a team with everything in front of them. University.
If they come back and win that DeLand game, do they finish undefeated?
They could very well be 10-0. Absolutely. I think that's certainly something to monitor as we go along here. They're not going to show up there thinking that they're 14-0 down. They're going to give it their all just the same. They're going to feel like it's 0-0, I'm sure. But realistically, too, University's obviously in a bit of a rough patch. I think they got they were in a different weight class last week playing Jesuit, a team with Will Griffin, a Florida committed quarterback, Caden Henderson, one of the best linebackers in the country as a junior. It doesn't get much easier here. I mean, you're playing a loaded defense. For Spruce Creek, their leading tackle this year, Mason Moore, played 3 seasons over in Orange City. So they'll know some of these guys very well. There were a few transfers after the season ended for University that went over to Spruce Creek. So, maybe a little bit of familiarity there as well. And again, for Creek, they're trying to keep this thing going and give themselves the best shot at a top 4 seed by the time the playoffs roll around.
Chris, I'm sticking with you. Father Lopez at Orangewood Christian. The Green Wave have rattled off 4 of 5. So they're as hot as really any team in the area at this point, save for the undefeated squads. What are you looking for here?
Yeah, I mean, right now they're on the right side of the bubble. They're the 7 seed in their region in Class 1A. So, I mean, what I'm looking for is they've got 4 games here where they control their own destiny. Now, I think Orangewood is a tricky matchup. I know that they've lost. I think they haven't won since August. They're 2-4 on the season, but they beat Taylor earlier in the year and did it pretty convincingly. They're the team. I think they won. I want to say they beat Lopez last year, but typically speaking, this is a pretty good program over in Maitland, which is on the kind of on the western end of Orange, or on the eastern end of Orange County. Overall, I mean, they run it well. They average about 94 yards a game on the ground. They've got a few guys they do it with. But for Lopez, the thing I'm looking for this week, I'd say, is their run game. So far, they've been much better in that department than they were a year ago. That's certainly one of the bigger turnarounds as far as any particular unit in the county. They've run for 172 yards a game this year, and leading the way has been Maverick Grimm with 5 touchdowns and 356 yards, and then Rylan DeMarsh with 232 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think whichever team kind of has the running game going is going to be in good shape here.
Bellevue at Matanzas is the last one we're talking about today. Zach, what are you looking for from Matanzas in this matchup? Obviously, another district game here.
Yeah. I kind of just want to see them blow out Bellevue. Bellevue is 1-23 in the last 3 seasons, so I don't really think whatever version of Matanzas comes out really matters. I think, they're going to get the win, but, we've seen this season at their best, Matanzas is competing with Mainland in games, and they're blowing out University, Deltona, Andrew Jackson. They're very capable of scoring 35 plus, 40 plus. It kind of depends on which way that the momentum's swinging. And like I said, that first half against Mainland, they were winning like 17-7 at one point, and then the offense stalls and they end up losing 34-17. And then last week they beat Mount Dora 17-13 on a last minute touchdown drive. It was like 80 yards. Cole Walker connected to Ladarian Baker in the last minute, and they went out and got a defensive stop. But I'd like to see them get back to week 2 to 4 Matanzas, where they were blowing teams out. They looked like we had them ranked for a couple weeks. They were one of the best teams in the area, and they still have that in them. And I'd like to see that kind of come out against Bellevue.
Yeah, a well-deserved ranking at that point too. It probably is just a confidence thing at this point. You want to keep building that resume for the playoffs as a wild card. If they win this game, they're probably going to be second in their district behind Mainland. And it just gives you confidence after kind of suffering that couple game losing streak there, and then bouncing back in a close game against Lake Weir last week. So
their problem with Matanzas, is their region's really, really deep. I mean,
yeah,
you got teams like Niceville and Ponte Vedra, Middleburg, Milton occupying wild card spots. That's going to be a tough hill to climb, but they've just got to keep winning and hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the name of the game at this point in the year. Just keep stacking W's. All right, boys, that's all I got this week. I appreciate you as always. That's Zach Allen and Chris Boyle. I'm Chris Vanell. This has been Quick Sent from the Daytona Beach News Journal, and we'll do it again next week.